Ah, never mind. Ah, okay, got it. Okay. Hey, welcome to Talking Xaphoon, episode number 3. I just was playing a little piece. I call it Jump Town. I've been working on that and practicing it, and in the process, I became aware of some problems I was having with my fingering. So, especially that last little, not a triplet, but it was an eighth note where we go. So the deal is, I wasn't having my finger right above the F hole, and so when you try to play a quick little succession of notes, if your fingers aren't in the right position, you end up, I was flubbing the notes. So that's something that can happen. So when you're playing the Xaphoon, you should be aware of where your hands are. The fingers that are not covering holes, they should be positioned above the holes. And that way, when you need to play the note, you don't have to move. Because if you go off the note and you go like forward or you jump to the side, when you're playing, you won't be in position. So try to minimize the motion of your hands. Although, if you don't move them far enough away from the holes, then that impacts the tone. So, and that can be used to our advantage, which is another thing I'd like to discuss in this episode. Before I get to that, though, I had a question that came up in the group this week. Someone commented that they were given a Xaphoon by a friend of theirs, and the Xaphoon had a broken mouthpiece. And they went to one of their saxophone friends, and he gave him another mouthpiece. That confused me, that question, and because the mouthpiece on the Xaphoon is part of the Xaphoon, broken mouthpiece to me would mean, oh, broken Xaphoon. I incorrectly assumed that the person had one of these, which is not a Xaphoon. These are called mini saxes or little saxes, and you will notice that they have 2 thumb holes, one here and one up here, and so I assumed that he had that because if it was a broken mouthpiece and he wanted to get a new one, well, that's no big issue. You can get one. What we finally just figured out and discovered that the person was referring to the reed. That's the reed. This is the mouthpiece, or this is the mouthpiece end. A quick terminology on the Xaphoon so we can communicate to each other is that's the reed, that's the ligature, that's the mouthpiece end, that's the bell end, these are the holes. Pretty simple, but we do need to use the right terminology when we talk to each other so we don't confuse each other. And while I'm on the subject of non-Xaphoon instruments, I got this because it was cheap and it came with a nice nylon bag, but as you see, it has 7 holes on the top, and it's got 2 holes on the thumb holes. And this thumb hole, this down here, is really useless, because and none of the fingering charts say keep it covered all the time. And why did they put it there? Okay, as if you uncover it, the instrument is immediately going to drop. You have to support. They could have put maybe a ridge there if they wanted to, but it doesn't need it. The Xaphoon doesn't have one. But and you want to hear what that thing sounds like too? There's another reason I really don't like these things. Some of them may be better than this one, but and I don't know if this is the original mouthpiece either. As you see, there's some cork showing, but I don't use this. I don't have much use for it. Whereas the Xaphoon has such pleasant tone. I think so. And and now I'd like to show some couple fingering techniques you can use on this. Mainly one fingering technique that I'm going to talk about today. Let's see, we have two fingerings on the Xaphoon that use a half hole. The C sharp, because there's no unique hole for the C sharp. So C sharp, D, you have to use a half hole. And in the upper register, it's the same thing, going G, A flat to A. However, you can use half holes for other fingerings or other effects on the instrument. And for instance, like the higher E flat, where you go from C to E flat, say, C, D, E flat. Suppose you wanted to play that more legato, slurred together. How would you do that? So you can just half hole the D. And bring it up a half step. No embouchure change, just fingering. And then you can, I don't know if you can go C to D. There might be a way to go C to D. I'm using an alternate C fingering. It's a bit unusual. Instead of doing the pinch hole fingering, you just basically cover all the top holes, except maybe the bottom one. Slightly muffled in the tone quality on that, but if you want to do a legato from that to the D, for instance, just roll your fingers off, and it brings the sound up the whole step kind of smoothly. And then same thing, slightly roll it to get to the E flat, so you can go C, D, E flat. I'm messing it up a little bit. I'm just trying to show you the principle of that. And then another area you can use it, and this is kind of an area that first turned me on to some of this stuff you can do with half holing or partially covered holes. Now, the low E flat note, okay, we have all the holes covered except we lift up this the ring finger. That produces, or should produce, the E flat. It has a tendency to go sharp, and if you want, if you don't raise it, depending on how high you raise it, it'll affect the pitch of the note. So if it's sharp, bring it closer. And once you find the right position, get what that feels like against your other finger and kind of rest it in there, and you can get there you go. Now, because it's only one finger difference between the C, you can do a legato all the way from the C to the E flat, going like. So, and if you just don't lift it too high, because that can bring it sharp. And try not to overblow too. Increased air pressure from your lungs can push the pitch up. So always use your ears when you're playing. Now, let's see. What else was there? Of course, you can do the roll. You can bring it all the way. You can go quite a ways up. Just from rolling. So that's just a technique I wanted to show you guys this week. And where else are we? So, that's what I want to do. I wanted to show you, okay, speaking of non-Xaphoon instruments, I showed you this one, which is, okay. I don't like it, but there are non-Xaphoon instruments that are okay. And there's an instrument I make. I based this on the Xaphoon. It has 9 holes and has a thumb hole and 8 holes on the top. My holes, they don't have indentations like the Xaphoon, but they're kind of a bit of a curve to naturally go with the shape of your hand. And so it's kind of, I've designed it. It's an ergonomic design. And it also plays 2 octaves. This one happens to be in the key of G. Size comparison of the G to the, see, it's a little bit longer, about so much. So, and I haven't been playing it much lately. It's nice though. It's fully chromatic, so it's light. It's kind of like a tin whistle. It's a fipple instrument, but nice full 2-octave range. I have a lot of fun with this. I do sell these. I started making these. It took me a while to develop them. It all started from the Xaphoon, because I was trying to make some Xaphoons out of bamboo, and boy, it's hard. It is difficult to work with bamboo. That's why, if anyone, these are really very nice instruments. These bamboo. This is a G Xaphoon. And I can't play this darn thing, unfortunately, because the size on this and you know, the size of the chromophone is almost the same. The hole position is everything. So when I try to play this thing, it's probably a factor of my age. I don't know. I do have big hands, but I just can't get them positioned over these holes. I can't play them. I just can't play it well. I have the same problem when I try to play the clarinet. These old hands just don't want to line up with the holes, and if you don't line up with the holes, if you do not cover the holes properly, it's going to squeak and sound terrible. I'll try to play it. Oh boy, nothing. That's not a good sign. Here, I'll play it. Hang on. It's just too much of a stretch for me. If anybody would be interested in this, I'd be happy to sell this thing for probably half price. And right now, contact me through the group or comment down there. I'll try to get to you. I don't know, I think it cost $150, so I would sell it for $75. Anybody interested? Let me know. But that's about it for today. Until next week, we'll see you. Happy Xaphooning. Keep practicing every day, and we'll see you all next week.